Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting held on the Tuesday, the 13th of May, commencing at 7 p.m. Thank you for your attendance. Look, members of the public are advised the meeting will be live streamed and recorded. The live stream recording will be made publicly available on YouTube and Council's website. Okay, we move to acknowledgement of country. The Nillumbik Shire Council respectfully acknowledges the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people as the traditional owners of the country on which Nillumbik is located, and we value the significance of the Wurundjeri people's history as essential to the unique character of the Shire. We pay tribute to all First Nations people living in Nillumbik, give respect to elders past, present and future, and extend that respect to all First Nations people. We respect the enduring strength of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung and acknowledge the ongoing impacts of past trauma and injustices from colonial invasion, massacres and genocide committed against First Nations people. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people hold a deep and ongoing connection to this place. We value the distinctive place of our First Nations people in both Nillumbik and Australia's identity, from their cultural heritage and care of the land and waterways to their ongoing contributions in many fields, including academia, agriculture, art, economics, law, sport and politics. Thank you. We do have an apology this evening. Do I have a mover of that motion? Councillor Joyner.
Thanks, Chair. I move that the committee, acting under delegation from Council, notes the apology from Councillor Peter Perkins.
Councillor Cope, second. Okay, all those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. We're moving to the confirmation of minutes from the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 8th of April. Do I have a mover?
I will move those.
Thank you, Councillor Mackay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cope. Thank you. All those in favour, raise your hands. That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We now move to the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting. As you can see on the papers, we have a number of people speaking this evening. So I do ask that everyone is respectful of other speakers, and I think one of the ways that you are respectful is you acknowledge that you do have a time limit on your contribution to us this evening, and that because of the numbers we have to go through, I'm going to try and enforce that rule equally, and so everyone gets their fair opportunity. Okay. But the first thing we have to do is the first item of the agenda, and that's a proposal to rename a section of Duffs Road, Panton Hill to Welton View. Do I have a mover, councillors?
Thanks,
Councillor
Chair.
Joyner?
I'd like to move that. I'd like to add that I was really impressed with how many...
If you could move the motion and then you can speak to it.
Okay. I move the motion.
Okay. Thank you. As per the papers?
As per the papers.
Okay. Do I have a seconder?
I can second.
Thank you, Councillor Mackay. You can speak to the motion.
Thank you. I'd just like to add how impressed I was to see so many submissions supporting this, the renaming of this road to Welton View, and that tonight was the opportunity for any of those submissions for people to come to speak to it. But there's no speakers tonight, but the submissions were very much in favour of this change of name.
Any other councillors wish to speak? No? Okay. All those in favour? If you could raise your hands. Thank you. That's passed unanimously. Carried is the appropriate word. Okay, so we're moving to the first item, or the second item, I'm sorry, that on the agenda tonight, but the first item that we have people speaking to. So the first thing we have to do is I would invite the number one speaker on my list here is Janice Crosswhite, OAM, to approach the table. Thank you, Janice.
Good evening, everyone. I'm speaking to the budget item because the recommendation to go to Council from the Positive Ageing Advisory Committee last year, from our August meeting last year, was that 80 plus aged people have free use of Nillumbik's pools and gyms, and this could have some budget implications. I experienced this idea when visiting grandchildren in Canada, in British Columbia last June. So came back home and did a PowerPoint presentation to the PAC at our August meeting, and we all voted unanimously on that recommendation for it to go forward to Council. I actually do gym classes at the Diamond Creek Community Centre and have done so for 20 plus years. And I know there are about 5 to 7 over 80 aged users. And in the 75 to 80 bracket, my research showed that there's approximately 35 members. So there's quite a big drop-off from that 75 cohort to 80 to over the 80 age. But mind you, the Australian men, the average age of Australian men to die now is 81 years, and for Australian women it's 85 years. So I've talked to a lot of people around there, and I also go to Eltham Leisure Centre, and the only criticism I've had from instructors and from members and users, please make it younger, go down to 75, but I know that would not get your approval, or Align Leisure or Richmond Football Clubs, so I'm sticking to the 80 plus age group. And the benefits are many, and I'm not going to list them because there's a short time. But I'd like Council to adopt this, and it's exciting, this recommendation from the PAC, and take it forward. Indeed, the PAC, we've had a couple of sessions on the health and wellbeing plan, and we've asked it to be included in the new draft Council health and wellbeing plan. And take it forward and be leaders in this space of maintaining health and wellbeing, supporting social connections and driving positive change in health education. And according to our terms of reference, the PAC's terms of reference, you should get a report from Council in June, July or August this year. And I hope this recommendation looks at what are the effects of this, who does this affect, male and female, what is the impact on facilities and usage, can this be trialled for possibly 6 to 12 months, because I think that's the only way this can be tested and properly evaluated. But remember, our gyms are now open 24/7. There is a lot of downtime. And at DCC, there are no classes that are full. You don't have to book, but I know at Eltham Leisure Centre you do for some of their classes. So I look forward to you receiving a report from staff on this in the near future and hopefully supporting a trial, because I think that's the best way to take this forward. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Janice. Do I have any questions from councillors? No? Thank you very much, Janice, for your submission. Okay. Yeah. Could I just ask for the people joining us via Zoom if you could mute your microphones? We can see you as part of the group, but if you could mute your microphones, that'd be appreciated. Thank you. So we have Paul Northey, if you could come up to the table, please. Thank you, Paul.
Can you hear me? Thank you very much. Time is going on. Thanks very much for hearing me. It's terrific. gym's a motivation thing. And I became motivated to go, and I went, and after about 3 months, I lost 20 kilos. And I was feeling good in myself. Nobody wants to think about being over 80. I mean, it's like a never land for all of us, you know. But it's really important now to think about that. I think this proposal addresses this particular blank area where we just say, oh, you just get over 80 and you die kind of thing. It's saying something positive about it. So the grief and loss was not only just a physical incapacity that I developed because of my depression, but also lack of social connection. Nilimbik's a wealthy shire. I've lived there most of my life, but there's a lot of isolation. The cohesion of the community isn't as strong as in other places, I think. This particular proposal addresses that. It has for me. I have connection. I go to the gym probably 5 times a week now, and it's not just meeting, not just doing weights or doing the orbital or something. It's also just meeting other people and having coffee and talking and being welcomed and communicated with. It's a really strong social connector for me. And it contradicts my loneliness and isolation. So I should say, the ancillary benefit is like what happened to me. I also have become a motivator. Both my 2 boys and my daughter all go to the gym. They didn't go before I went there. So because I was going to the gym, the family also is being connected. So it has this sort of ripple effect. I think it's a great idea. And I commend you to doing this work and seeing if we can bring this forward and do whatever the next step is. So that's my testimony to you tonight. So thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for those generous comments at the beginning of your address. Do councillors have any questions for Paul? Any questions? No? You can. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you. We have Sue Dyatt on behalf of the Eltham Community Action Group. Microphone on.
It is now. I was listening. Right. This draft budget appears to show a steady as we go approach, which is all fine in steady circumstances. But given the state governments across Australia are all trying to catch up with the need to provide more housing, including social housing, they all now appear to be bent on changing the planning rules, be it in Queensland, New South Wales or Victoria. Local government is being sidelined, and individual residents in some locations may not even be informed when a housing application next door has been approved, because some of them will have to cover is a ticking the boxes exercise, and people might not know until work starts next door. This is not a steady environment, and council will need to adapt to it and may need more funding allocated for statutory and strategic planning and proactive compliance officers. ETAG is concerned that compliance should be increased because new changes can enable the opportunity for, shall we say, discrepancies between the approved ticking the box process and the final building. Once a project has been started or even completed, it is too late. Relying on amateur residents to notice and have the time to complain is not good enough. Even in the last 12 months, council did eventually make one developer apply for a retrospective permit almost a year after the initial work had started and had been notified to council. The retrospective permit was given by council, and so the developer got away with doing the wrong thing. Another developer's planning application stated that the building would have stone feature walling. What happened was that pictures of stone walls were printed onto plastic board and then applied to the building. Council did not know until residents contacted compliance. At least the council then did persuade the developer to repaint other non-compliant aspects of the development. With the planned tick-the-box projects, it's unfair to expect residents who do not know about any project to notify council. Compliance officers will have to be more vigilant and proactive on behalf of residents. And very quickly, previous councils have undertaken many reviews, and we have a particular interest in having the urban tree canopy strategy implemented as fast as possible, because to be effective, it takes a long time to grow trees.
Thank you, Sue. Councillors, any questions for Sue Dyatt? Yes, Councillor Joy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sue. You may not have given it thought to this level of detail, and that's okay if not, but just to help my understanding, when you're talking about more proactive compliance, I'm not connecting the dots of what you're actually referring to and how that will help with this problem of the potential of the state government taking on more of the planning powers. Could you elaborate, please, what you mean?
I can't have, one of your council staff could explain it more, but there's going to be a discrepancy between tick-the-box applications being allowed and who in council knows what has been allowed. I don't know that level of detail. I don't know if anybody in council, in fact, does now. But how is council going to know what in detail is council going to be given the plans of a project that has had the boxes ticked? And therefore, it might well be that the council officers actually have to drive around, the compliance officers.
Okay, thank you. Cheers. Okay, we have Michael Burgess, the President, and on behalf of the Greensboro Hockey Club.
Sorry, new technology, it's harder to start. Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to speak, and both at the club, and we're just local, we're up behind you here. We are thankful for the Council and the support we've had over the years. We've done a lot of work together, and even recently we supported with our facilities outside and saving the life of a council contractor with the stuff we provide around the club with our defibrillator that's publicly available. So what I wanted to run you through tonight, we have applied to put our name at the top of the list for the lighting, which we've been on your plan for a few years. And the reason that we've come here is of the importance of it, and that's why we want to move forward. Our club has put in, we've got the facilities there. As a club, we've put in $1 million into the surfaces. Those are surfaces that we've worked on in there. And the council have significantly supported with infrastructure around that. Where I'm heading is, we've got players now that are in Masters. Some of them are actually in Cairns now at the national tournament. And the Masters teams come and actually practice here from around Australia. Our lighting levels no longer are of a standard for us to practice or play. And it's become a safety issue on our main pitch. So to give you an idea how active our facility is, Monday nights we have Masters 35s and 45 men's. And we also have, on the other ground, social soccer playing. Then on Tuesday nights, right now, I've left practice to come here for our juniors, and then our seniors practice. Wednesday night, we have our 45 women's, 35 women's playing, and these are all games, so they've got to be able to track. We're not tracking a footy, we're tracking something the size of an orange. And as part of our ageing community, our men's 60s team. So hockey is growing to be a sport of a lot of people coming in of the older age group and participating. Thursday night we're practicing again. Friday night we've got all our junior teams at home. And then for this weekend we've actually bring annually to the area 14 country teams come in for a tournament where they spend all weekend with us for under 16s. And that goes into night matches as well. So our support that we're asking from the councillors is just to understand where we sit, and for you to support us in moving up that list to put forward as your recommendation. we do thank the work that we've had from the team at the group here today and the different people within the council that have supported us. That's all from myself.
Thank you very much, Michael. And thank you again for the generous comments about the previous support. Any questions for Greensborough Hockey Club?
Just one. Did you say the lighting's dropped, or is it just no longer suitable for what you're doing?
The age of it is 25 years. We've relamped it multiple times. The ballasts are no longer there. Our lamp contractor actually doesn't want to come and put more in because he said that the aged asset is, he can't get the lux level back up because it's 25 years. It's just degraded. So we're not asking to replace poles.
So it's dropped over time.
It's significantly dropped now. It's not to safety.
Councillor Cope?
Yeah, Michael, just wondering have you taken advantage of the LED lighting upgrades that the government's been offering?
As a club, we've had to put significant finance into other areas. We put 150,000 into the new club rooms. That's a big debacle on the sports rort thing. That we're on the wrong side. Recently, we worked with council to go green, and we put 22,500 into solar. And currently, we have loans of $500,000 across the pitches. So to extend the members into anything more, I think we'd put our fees out of reach and we wouldn't be able to have participation. And that's without even looking at pitch replacements that are due in 4 years for the first one. So we have looked, but we're not in a position at the moment.
So you're still using old mercury?
Yeah, both grounds are metal halides. I work in electrical trade, so that's why it's easy. But yes, they're all old metal halides. But the second ground, it's a newer ground. It's still giving great efficiency. It's only 12 to 16 years old. There's nothing wrong with that, except that turf itself is old. It's not up to the safety.
What colour's your puck?
Oh, the hockey ball, it can be white. Some teams like yellow, others like orange, but you don't use orange at night. You can't see it, but the white.
Councillor Mackay.
What's the price that that's been estimated or quoted for you guys to do this work?
Off the top of my head, because I'm not across all of it, Greg's our normal liaison, who's been our liaison here for many years, Greg Purser. He's at that tournament in Cairns. I think, and I could be wrong, it's in the submission, but I'll take a guess at 180, I could be wrong, 1,000. And what we're actually waiting for at the moment, and this is where I thank the council staff, is we need the lighting contractor from the council to come and give a quote. So a lot of other people have quoted, but council have done great work on the engineering, saying we don't need to replace poles, we don't need to dig up the ground. So we should just be able to do a lighting head replacement. So that number, I think, is subject to the council's pricing from their contractor, and I think I'm expecting that to come down.
Thank you, Michael, and we've all the better for your submission about the colour of the puck you use. So
Thank you.
Good, thank you. We have Wayne Kinraid, if you could approach the table.
I made a written submission, and the first comment I made in that submission was about acknowledging the effort that as councillors you put into pulling together a budget in such a short time frame since being appointed as councillors. That's a big effort. It's a lot of work. I also appreciate the way in which you've kept the broad macro parameters at an appropriate level in terms of overall debt and the long-term plans. I also strongly endorsed the in-principle commitment to additional investment of resources around biodiversity initiatives. I say in principle because I'll come back to why I think I can't be any more supportive than that. What I'd like to concentrate on in my verbal submission is the third point that I'm covering in my written submission, which relates to reporting. Not many people take much notice of reporting, but as a professional with an interest in how public sector operates, I'd have to say that this document fails. A good budget facilitates a clear sense of direction around priorities, and it's not bad on that. A good budget document facilitates accountability, and it fails on that regard. And it also facilitates transparency, and it fails in that regard. Why? Because the details around budgets are only at the thematic level. Now, if you're getting more detail, that's great, but why isn't that shared with members of the community? There's quite a lot of information about the character of sub-themes within the budget, but there's no accountable information or transparent information about what the expenditure was at the sub-theme level in prior years. There's no accountability or transparency about what the budget is for this financial year at the sub-theme level, and there's no consistent performance indicators at the sub-theme level. Why not? There should be, because that's how you get those other two criteria satisfied, i.e. accountability and transparency. Now that really comes to the fore when you look at the performance indicators that are reported on. I grant you, Council provides information on the 8 minimum performance indicators that are specified by Local Government Victoria. And in fact, you actually two more performance indicators. But if you look at the total number of sub-themes that are in the budget, I tallied them up in my written submission, but take people in place, for instance, there's 10 sub-themes, but only 3 performance indicators, and no link between the budget allocation and the FTE. It's a big job, but it's not a hard job to fix this up. So I urge you to give consideration to this. It's probably too late to do it for this financial year, but certainly put a process in place to facilitate it happening.
I think we get your message. Any questions, councillors, for Wayne? No, I think you're okay. Okay, we have Natalie Duffy. I have to say, welcome back, Natalie.
Thank you very much, Grant. Thank you, councillors, for having me tonight. Thank you for giving the community the opportunity to give comment on the budget. I know it's a really enormous job and there's a lot that goes into this, so thank you for that. But the devil is in the detail, like everything. And I don't want to question the budget or the budget figures because I know that's difficult. But I do want to say with the $83 million worth of rates that are identified in the budget, I'd really like to see some performance measure where council is able to show what percentage of spend happens annually with First Nations people. This evening you did do an acknowledgement to country that we're on Wurundjeri land, and I think that that's fabulous. But it would be really good to see that as one performance indicator. Signage to acknowledge Wurundjeri at council offices is something that would be favourable to see, particularly signage that would be produced by an Aboriginal-owned business like Kinyalurk. So that's one ask. I have 8 points today that I was hoping to put in as some detail for when you're trying to spread across the money in the various buckets that you've got, because you've put big figures out to the community. And I do know that there's a lot of rigour that goes into assessing that, and I love the way that you break it down into how much money is spent on each item out of every $100 that is spent. So an important one for me is we had the community rally a couple of years ago in 2018 about reserves that council was wanting to sell. There's a reserve in Eltham North on Glen Park Road next to the preschool, and I'd really like council to consider the giving it a name. There's no sign there at the moment. It has no name. I'd like council to consider dedicating that place to Shelley Wilcox, a woman who is very important in our community who died of breast cancer last year, and her kids went to that preschool. She had a sign that the community put to remember her on a park bench on the Diamond Creek Trail, and that was recently stolen. The replacement cost of that sign that was put together by the community is $190, and the community contacted council asking council to replace that, and council said no. So I'd like us to be able to have a place where we could all remember Shelley, and a park would be a wonderful place. We have very few places in the Shire that are named after women. There are a number of other things, but I probably will run out of time. I think the most important thing that I'd like to raise is, we're talking about the damp in a moment. If we could have dog bag dispensers and bins at ovals, that would be wonderful. There's been great change in behaviour at the Eltham North Oval since the introduction of that a couple of years ago. And the dust hazard on Railway Parade is very serious. Even tonight, there was dust everywhere as I was driving through. And I'm thinking of the pedestrians, the residents. I know that there's a rate scheme for bitumening, but this is an area that really is a community good situation where it would be something that council, I hope, would be able to find the money in the budget to bitumen this little
Thank
section of
you,
road, which is
Natalie.
right on the Diamond Creek Trail.
Is that it?
I've got more, but I won't go over
Okay.
time. So thank you. I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to answer any questions.
Any questions, councillors? No questions on this item. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Sue Rosenhain is next on my list. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Sue, you have 3 minutes.
Okay
go.
then, let's go. So thank you for the opportunity, and in 3 minutes I hope to make 3 key points. The first one is around the major initiatives, and I'm delighted to see the inclusion, as Wayne said, of the 6 major initiatives within the sustainable and resilient theme. All of these are important pieces of work which will contribute to our established commitments to addressing climate change and protecting and enhancing biodiversity, as outlined in the Climate Action Plan and the Biodiversity Strategy. Developing the specific outcomes and indicators to demonstrate real progress towards our climate change and biodiversity goals will be the next crucial step to ensure these initiatives bring about meaningful change and money well spent. I'd like to also talk about resourcing to achieve the outcomes of the biodiversity strategy and accompanying implementation plan. I note that the FTE in each and across all units is predicted to be stable across the next 10 years. If this remains the case, it is difficult to see how the 22 new actions outlined in the Biodiversity Implementation Plan can possibly be achieved. While some reduction or redirection of responsibility may be possible, in general, new initiatives will require new resources, particularly in light of the fact that capacity to continue current and ongoing actions already seems really stretched. Many of the new actions in the current Biodiversity Implementation Plan 24-25 have not yet commenced, with just 6 weeks to go. So no doubt will roll over into the 25-26 and subsequent budget years. Without increasing resources to undertake these actions, they will remain little more than aspirational intentions. Understanding there is no new money other than potentially some grants, and we know that the budget is very tight, I suggest Council review all vacancies as they arise in all units and allocate FTE according to priorities arising from the Council plan and other key strategies such as the Climate Action Plan and Biodiversity Strategy supported by the community. This may, of course, see redirection across units. This approach, although somewhat longer term, would also avoid the need for expensive redundancies and avoid the anxiety, disruption and waste that inevitably accompanies restructure. In relation to external grants, I'd like to also suggest that Council exercise extreme caution when accepting external funding that requires a matched Council spend. While such opportunities may seem attractive and may be difficult to refuse, they are often infrastructure related and therefore expensive, with costs inevitably escalating as they are implemented, and do not necessarily reflect community priorities. A further very significant downside is that they take scarce resources from other priority spends. And I think this may be particularly relevant within this next year as we approach the state election, albeit in the context of a very tight economic situation.
Thank you, Sue. Do we have any questions for Sue? No questions?
How did you manage to finish in time?
Well, I know how good you are, so I'm not even surprised at that. Okay. So, just if you could bear with me there for a moment. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. You have 3 minutes, Vicky.
Thank you. Thank you for your work, everyone, and the opportunity to speak. Vicky Shukuruglu speaking, with acknowledgement for traditional custodians across this land and across time. The World Economic Forum states the greatest risks we face arise from environmental degradation. The World Health Organization echoes similar pressures. Science across all fields points to the same conclusion. We must change our practices and significantly ramp up action for the protection and reinvigoration of our environment. Of the top 10 global risks ranked by severity for a 10-year period, the top 4 are all associated with environmental factors. The Global Risks Report states that the outlook for environmental risks over the next decade is alarming. While all 33 risks in the GRPS are expected to worsen in severity from the 2-year to 10-year time horizon, environmental risks present the most significant deterioration. Extreme weather events are anticipated to become even more concerned than they already are, with this risk being top ranked for the second year running. Biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse ranks number 2 over the 10-year horizon, with a significant deterioration compared to its 2-year ranking. These statements should be enough for Nillumbik Council to prioritise environmental care and climate change mitigation. While the draft budget is to be commended for mentioning ecosystems and climate change in the introduction, bolder action is necessary, and this requires financial commitment. Council needs to bravely inform the community of such priorities, outline the reasons, and describe the short and long-term benefits. I urge Council to outline details of budget allocations. For example, it is not enough to lump the allocation of funds for parks, sports grounds, conservation reserves, street trees and roadsides across the Shire. Detail is needed. Service performance outcome indicators must be greatly developed to reflect a culture of best practice, accountability and environmental improvement, in turn building community trust. Performance indicators must reflect strong measurable outcomes on the ground and build on documents such as the biodiversity strategy. If new initiatives are introduced, it must be made clear whether these are actioned through reallocation of existing resources or new allocation of funds. Questions arise of how Council values mature trees and if this is reflected anywhere in the budget. Using the Burnley method of tree valuation, widely used by councils, gardens, Australian Court, a 100-year-old tree can be valued at $150,000.
Thank you, Vicky. Any questions, councillors? Thank you for your submission. We have Michael Smith. Michael, could you approach the table?
Hello. My name is Michael Smith. I'm an ecologist and conservation teacher and have a strong commitment to conservation in the Shire. It's very difficult to understand when reading the draft budget how much funding biodiversity and reserve management actually receive. Presumably, these matters are deliberately lumped into broader categories. For example, under Nillumbik rate spending, I think biodiversity is included within the category environment, parks and open space. But open space is hardly biodiversity. In fact, it's often the direct opposite. Parks can also include playgrounds and dog parks, which are not conservation focused either. So from the $14.89 out of every $100 of rates attributed to this category, how much actually gets spent on genuine biodiversity as opposed to parks and open space? I'd like to know. Under the theme place and space, the service that could provide for biodiversity and reserve management seems to be parks and reserves maintenance. Straight away, the word maintenance doesn't imply conservation. It suggests cutting back branches from walking paths and managing weeds that the public complain about, which frankly is about all Nillumbik councils seem to do in some reserves. Again, why is a parks budget lumped together with reserves? They are very different matters. And would you believe it, sporting grounds are also considered part of parks and reserves maintenance. Why? Sport is already under the leisure services category for the theme place and space and receives a huge amount of funding. And none of the major initiatives listed for place and space, like Amendment for Housing Strategy and Neighbourhood Character Study, seem to involve out-and-out biodiversity objectives. Then there is the theme 2.3, environment and conservation, which could be the major theme for biodiversity. From my reading, it appears that a significant portion of this funding is likely to be allocated to education programs, Edendale operations, and threatened species protection. These are all highly worthy initiatives and definitely contribute to biodiversity. However, it is important to emphasise that biodiversity lives and persists within the Shire's reserves and across private land. These natural areas urgently need direct protection and active management if we're serious about safeguarding the Shire's biodiversity values for the future. And when I read the budget, I don't see any obvious active management. I emphasise active management funding options. Biodiversity management needs transparency in the budget and a heap of on-ground works. In summary, spend more directly on biodiversity and conservation, in particular on-ground works and reserves like the Panton Hill Reserve System. Be upfront about what you are actually spending on conservation matters. Create a separate category called reserve management and biodiversity. Let's be transparent in the budget. Now that's it.
Thank you, Michael.
No worries.
Councillors, I think you're free to go. Thank you. We have Don Vincent on behalf of Friends of Nillumbik via Zoom. So, Don?
Hello, thanks. Can you hear me?
You're coming through loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of Friends of Nillumbik to support our detailed written submission. In March, Councillor Brooker said that those in the community who will influence the budget are those who turn up and present to this meeting. So here we are. We want adequate funding for council priorities and a long-term sustainable position. Both of these are a concern, and I'll explain why. Firstly, investment in environment, biodiversity and the green wedge. We welcome an increase in operating funds for environment and conservation and for parks and reserves maintenance, but the latter includes parks, sports grounds, conservation reserves, street trees and roadsides. It is a significant admission that there is no explicit funding or even a mention of the Green Wedge Management Plan or biodiversity or urban tree canopy strategies. Suffice to say that current funding is totally inadequate for programs such as invasive species control on private and council land, management of roadsides and arresting declining biodiversity. There are also zero performance measures relating to environment, biodiversity and climate action, despite these being integral to strategy commitments. We ask for significantly increased funding and specific reference in the budget for environment, biodiversity and the green wedge, along with appropriate performance indicators. Secondly, the budget basis and assumptions. For the next 10 years, the budget is based on a 3% rate increase, flat, an average 2.4% operating expense increase, assuming no significant growth in rateable assessments, inflation-only cost increases, zero growth in service capacity, and no increases in staff. These forecasts increasing operating surpluses and after 10 years, no borrowings and a very healthy cash position, a net improvement of $46 million. So it all looks rosy, or does it? Unfortunately, the budget neglects significant risks and future influences on the budget. It ignores a more dynamic situation of increased dwelling growth and the state government's housing target. Forecast capital works are well below target for capital replacements and renewals, and there is no internally funded investment for new growth assets. There is no additional funding to implement environmental strategies and no view on whether the assumed 3% rate forecast is even appropriate. We think the budget assumptions are inaccurate and incomplete, and the issues we mentioned pose risks to Council's 10-year financial position in terms of more complex planning, increased demand for services, maintenance and infrastructure investment. We're concerned that this inadequate consideration will result in deterioration of services and infrastructure. We ask, how does Council plan to provide services and infrastructure to meet increased growth, and why is this not discussed in the budget? Why aren't other risks to Council's financial sustainability explored? And does our community want Council to have more cash in the bank or roads with fewer potholes and facilities that are safe and adequate?
Thank you,
We
Don.
think the latter.
Thank you, Don. I'll ask councillors for questions. Are there any? No, there are not. Thank you for your submission. We appreciate it. That is the end of submissions on the draft budget. So, councillors, do we have a recommendation?
I will.
Mackay?
Yes, I'll move the recommendation as per the papers, highlighting section 2 that we consider these matters contained in the submissions and the committee's report during the finalisation of the budget. And I just wanted to extend a thank you for those who have submitted. It's great.
Maybe we can, if you speak to the motion,
sorry.
you can do it at that point. Thank you. Councillor Mackay? Councillor Dumerick? Councillor Mackay, if you would like to speak to the budget.
Thank you. Apologies. Just a thank you for those to coming to speak, particularly for highlighting your concerns. We, the council, are not accountants, and we do appreciate all of your input here. And yeah, I just wanted to extend my thanks there.
Any other speakers? No? All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Unanimously. Okay, so we're moving on to the next area, which is the Domestic Animal Management Plan. We have a number of speakers this evening on this plan. So again, if I could ask you to respect other people by respecting the time, and that way we'll get through the 21 submissions that we have to get through this evening with questions. So thank you. We've got number 1, Sue Rosenhain, back up to the desk, please.
Try and keep the record clean. In preparation, thank you again for another opportunity to speak. And in preparation for this submission, verbal submission to support my written submission on the draft animal management plan, I was wondering where to start, what to emphasise. There are many things to say and matters that were difficult to articulate in the online survey format. But as I was sitting at my office desk considering this, the idea flew to me, literally, by way of some spotted pardalotes and red-browed finches. Thus, my focus this evening will be in support of a 24/7 cat curfew, which I believe to be important for the welfare of cats themselves and, of course, for the welfare of the vast number of native species, the daunting number that I imagine others may also cover, and which are documented extensively elsewhere, that are damaged by cats. I've done my best to create a bird haven in my backyard, to attract and protect our small native birds that provide so much joy and face so many threats by way of habitat removal, mid-story in particular, as well as the threats from predators. The above 2 species, along with the ever heartwarming superb fairy wren, small honey eaters and others, nest and feed in my garden. In our Greenwedge Shire, which hosts Gardens for Wildlife program and has adopted a biodiversity strategy that strives for biodiversity in Nillumbik that is healthy and to develop a community that values and cares for nature, I think my contribution to these shared council goals should be supported, and a 24/7 cat curfew should be part of that. Currently, cats have rights not afforded to other domestic animals. My neighbours' goats can't come and free range in my veggie patch, their horses can't come and graze on my lawn, and their dogs can't come and chase my chooks. Well, there might be some exceptions to that. However, why should their cats be able to hunt the very animals I'm trying to protect in good faith and in line with council goals? At the moment, cats seem to have rights that we do not even afford to humans. Unlimited all areas access, the ability to hunt and kill threatened species without penalty. There is some talk of the nocturnal curfew being sufficient, but these birds are active during the day. Lizards and skinks are active during the day. Bird and other nests don't get a magic veil of protection during the sunlight hours. No, cat all areas access during the day needs to cease, and their roaming limited to the properties of the people who are responsible for their welfare. This is not leading practice or edgy new territory. Some other councils have already implemented this approach and others are moving in this direction. And as it's somewhat embarrassing to think that Nillumbik, the Greenwedge Shire, could be a laggard in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Any questions, councillors? No? You're free to go. Thank you. Thank you. We have Vicky Sugaroglo. Thank you. You can please correct me. I'm going to get this right eventually.
Shukuruglu. Thank you. Thanks.
You have 3 minutes.
That's all right. Thank you. Thanks again for the opportunity. I love animals and always have. I firmly support their rights as sentient beings and acknowledge our significant responsibilities in ensuring they receive appropriate care. I've met many cats and dogs and celebrate each individual's unique personality. Cats are known for their extraordinary feline abilities, almost magical in their slinkiness, their agility, prowess, speed and accuracy, and also their love of lazing about like we might imagine Cleopatra did in a tub of milk. Their hunting instinct is potent, formidable, and deeply resides in their being. They have evolved that way, evolved to pounce at moving objects, hence the astonishing array of cat toys associated with movement. This instinct does not make them bad or nasty, but it does mean they find and chase things that move. That includes lizards, moths, butterflies, birds, and more. Cats cause these creatures injury and death. It is important to note that Crime Stoppers, the Victorian Conservation Regulator, and other authorities reference the Wildlife Act, stating all wildlife is protected in Victoria and it is illegal to hunt, take, destroy, injure, or interfere with them without authorisation. Severe penalties apply, reflecting the seriousness of the issue. Are we failing in our duty of care and breaking the law when cats are allowed to roam and cause injury and death to our local creatures? Each instance affects local populations, and as a whole, the impact is severe. While actual numbers can only ever be estimates, as most deaths occur out of view, whatever number you contemplate, the toll is devastating. I recall one evening we gathered in the local community centre to discuss actions in support of Eltham copper butterflies. For the duration of our meeting, a divine little cat meowed at the windows and all the while pounced at every moth that it saw. The irony did not escape us. We must ensure responsible pet ownership equates to keeping cats contained at all times. Local council has a significant role to play in upholding state and national laws that demand the protection of all native species. Nillumbik Council has an opportunity to catch up with other councils that demonstrate their responsibility and apply 24-hour cat curfews. It is imperative that we also speak about the welfare of cats. Countless cat protection societies, shelters and vets advocate for cat containment. This is because they bear witness to tragic outcomes when cats are allowed to roam.
Thank you, Vicky. Any questions from councillors? No. You're good to go. Thank you, Vicky. We have Christopher Collins on behalf of Dogs of Eltham. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, councillors. I've been a resident of this area of the Shire for over 40 years, 30 years of involvement as a professional dog obedience instructor. My wife and I run a dog obedience school plus a grooming salon, dog obedience grooming salon. And I'm talking to the advantages of allowing our dogs to have access to our sporting grounds, or if you prefer the term, a shared outdoor leisure space. There are many advantages for allowing dogs of all sizes, types and breeds to access our sporting ovals. They have more opportunities to run unhindered by obstacles. Sporting ovals invite dog owners to exercise as well, either running or walking circuits and playing more interactively with their dogs. Having access to a sports oval when there's not being used for sporting activities can offer advantages over traditional dog parks, particularly in managing potential over-arousal or excitement. Sporting ovals, as they are securely fenced and maintained, offer greater levels of safety for dogs, their owners, other park users, and particularly the asset managers. On an oval, as the dogs are always in clear view of their owners, It is easy to monitor dog interactions and to allow early intervention of potentially rough play that could lead to injuries. A closed-off lead areas such as ovals offer several benefits for dogs and their owners. Primarily, these areas provide a safe and controlled environment for dogs to exercise. Safe areas for dogs under effective voice control allows them to run, play and explore freely, which is crucial for their physical and mental health. These areas provide opportunities for dogs to interact with other dogs, helping them to develop social skills and learn appropriate canine behaviours. The opportunity to exercise and socialise can also help reduce stress and boredom, leading to a healthier and happier dog. Off-lead areas allow dogs to engage in natural behaviours like running, chasing and barking, which can be outlets for pent-up energy. A well-exercised and socialised dogs are less likely to engage in any unwanted behaviours like excessive barking or destructive chewing. Exercising and socialising with their dogs in a safe environment can strengthen the bond between owners and their pets. Taking dogs for walks and allowing them to play in off-lead areas can also benefit the owner's physical and mental health. Off-lead areas can provide a space for dog owners to meet and interact with each other, fostering a sense of community. Dog parks are not for every human or canine. In particular, they do not encourage exercise for dogs or their owners. I've drawn extensively on several sources, particularly from the UK for this presentation, as it is generally agreed that the UK has a much more positive outlook on fostering dogs and their owners.
Sorry, Christopher, we're out of time. I will ask any questions, though, of councillors. Do we have any questions of Councillor Joy?
Thanks, Christopher.
Okay.
With your, I wasn't quite clear if you're proposing that we should have more ovals that are of shared use for off-lead when there's no sport, or you're advocating just for the continuation of the ones that we already have?
I'm advocating for more as per there's been the meeting over 3 years ago on that, so yes I am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Alex Grimes. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you, staff. As I'm sure many of you know, there's a significant difference in price between a D-sex and a whole dog, so $55 versus $210. Whilst I'm perfectly fine with long-term whole dogs having a more expensive rego, I feel that this is quite a rough whack for those with a puppy. Given all the expenses we already face with them, like just the amount of toys they go through, to say nothing about the beds they often like to just rip apart, I would hope that Nillumbik Council would be willing to implement an in-between fee, let's say a reverse of the whole dog, so $120. This still incentivises responsible dog owners to get their dog desexed, but at the same time reduces the urgency to get them desexed. What you may not know is that getting the dog desexed too early, so the earliest they recommend is about 6 months, it can lead to several significant health problems. So both sex hormones are important in muscle and bone development, weight control and overall body maturation. Early desexing can lead to dogs' bodies malforming as they grow, which can lead to a mild form of gigantism, which increases the risk of cruciate rupture, hip dysplasia and limbs growing to different lengths. My sister's French Mastiff, for instance, she had this issue where her back legs grew too tall, so she was always walking downhill, even if she was walking uphill. It was a poor thing. Early desexing can also lead to an increased risk of hypothyroidism, incontinence and disease. The former from the removal of the hormone-producing organs, the latter two from the simple fact that it's a puppy and their immune systems are still developing. And particularly with bitches, it's quite an invasive surgery. You'll find that the appropriate time to desex will vary with near every breed, but ask any reputable dog breeder, as I have, and they'll recommend waiting until the dog has finished growing through puberty, which is generally 12 to 18 months, although I'm told some dogs can take up to 24 months or 2 years. We love our dogs and want what's best for them. I'm well aware that leaving a dog hole can lead to increased cancer risks of different kinds, behavioural problems, and general mischievousness. My older dog, as a pup, he would love to just follow scents. So obviously, if a dog gets a good scent and wants to follow that, you're going to have a hard time trying to keep a hold of them. I've already paid my new pup, Oscar's full fee, so I don't stand to benefit from this change this time next year. But I do hope that through taking on board my proposal that Nillumbik Council can help dog owners better understand what's best for their dog through even a small action like this.
Thank you, Alex. Any questions, councillors? No? That's good, thank you. Lindley Tozer. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. I'm speaking for myself tonight and also on behalf of the Green Wedge Protection Group. I'm personally sick to death of hearing the sound of cats brawling outside my house. I'm tired of walking around my bush property, finding piles of feathers from various bird species or tails of sugar gliders and ringtail possums. I'm tired of seeing cats in broad daylight bolting at the sight of me, sometimes with the still writhing body of wildlife in their jaws. And two cats that are frequenting my property are both likely to be pets and owned by different neighbours, and both have been found brawling and killing wildlife on my land. These cats are roaming in bushland environments at least 300 metres from their homes to be at my house and have been seen up to 1 kilometre away from their homes. Most of these sightings are daylight hours, sometimes at night, in breach of the current cat curfews. Roaming cats are more likely to be killed or injured by cars, foxes, dogs and other cats. I have had cat-owning friends who always allowed their cats to roam, call me to help them find a missing pet, and every time the cats were found either dead or never found again. Roaming cats are more likely to contract and spread an array of diseases, and roaming cats that haven't been desexed are also assisting the shelters to be overwhelmed during kitten season. So desexing should be considered compulsory for cats unless the registered breeders are of particular breeds of cats. We've got the Victorian Cat Management Strategy was released in December 2024, also promotes cat containment. RSPCA and other animal welfare agencies endorse the containment of domestic cats. Many private and commercial cat rescuers will only rehome their cats to indoor or contained homes and are strong advocates for cat containment for the protection of the domestic pets and to reduce the spread of disease and unwanted pregnancies. The argument that cats keep down rats and mice, well, they will continue to do that even if they're contained within the perimeter of your own property. Cats do not discern between introduced rats and mice or native bush rats, Dunarts and Antechinus. So cats should be contained 24/7 in all areas that support native wildlife. Even Manningham introduced a 24-hour cat curfew in 2024, Whittlesea in 2023 and Yarra Ranges in 2014. Even the City of Melbourne are considering a 24-hour cat curfew, yet Nillumbik present themselves as the premier green wedge, yet we continue to fail on this one particular issue every time. Under Part 3 of the Domestic Animal Act, the responsibility to implement cat containment policies fall on the desks of local councils, which means it's local councils, Nillumbik's responsibility to decide if both animal welfare and wild safety are important enough to implement a 24-hour curfew. While the implementation of a curfew is council's responsibility, it is a cat's owner's responsibility to ensure their pets are not a nuisance. Also under Part 3 of the Domestic Animal Act, domestic cats are not allowed to trespass on private properties without the landowner's permissions.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Any questions here? Thank you.
Sorry, I had to talk really fast.
A rapid ending got you through. Thank you. Lily Van Eden is next. Thank you, Lily.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I've come here to also lend my voice in support for 24-hour cat containment. We've already heard a few impassioned pleas to protect our native wildlife, and I hope what I have to say will complement that point, which is also dear to my heart as well. According to the Australian Veterinary Association, a pet cat kept at home can live up to 4 times longer than a cat that is allowed to roam. According to data from veterinary practices, trauma-related injuries such as vehicle collisions and dog attacks are the #1 cause of mortality among cats that are brought into vet practices, especially for younger cats. According to the RSPCA and Zoos Victoria Safe Cat, Safe Wildlife program, they've done a survey of their members and found that more than 2/3 had lost a cat to a roaming-related injury. The containment, of course, there is a good, strong case. We know that cats negatively impact on wildlife, but there are also benefits to cats and the owners who care for those cats. I also wanted to make the point that Nillumbik's own survey, which put a call out to people who wanted to weigh in on this debate, found good support for imposing 24-hour cat containment. So I think the numbers are about 66% of respondents strongly support or somewhat support 24-hour cat containment. And there might be questions around representativeness of that sample. Is it just the people who've got something to say? There's also statewide data of a representative sample of Victorians, a survey of 100 respondents, which found that 61% somewhat or strongly support 24-hour cat containment, whereas about 15 to 16% somewhat or strongly oppose. So the supporters are still in the majority. That's Victorians generally. Among those is a subset of about 250 cat owners, and even among that group, 51% somewhat or strongly support 24-hour containment bylaws and 26% somewhat or strongly oppose. So this is still more favour than there is opposition. I wanted to make the point that cat containment is, as we've just heard, increasingly being adopted by different councils, but it also seems to be increasingly becoming the norm among cat owners. So from Victorian state government data, this is a study that I led when I previously worked in government, just over half, about 53% of cat owners in Victoria are already not allowing their cats to roam. A further 30% are not allowing their cat to roam at night time, contain them at night time, and only 17% are allowing their cat to roam day or night. So increasingly there is a norm of containment. Of course, there will be challenges to changing behaviour if 24-hour cat containment bylaws are imposed, but it sets the standard, it sets the norms that containing cats is the right thing to do for new cat owners and people moving to Nillumbik with cats.
Thank you. Thank you, Lily. Do we have any questions for Lily? Councillors? No? Thank you. Michael McCarthy, if you could come to the desk.
Hi, Michael McCarthy from Eltham North. I'm here in support of dogs being allowed off-leash on all ovals in the council. But what I want to focus on tonight, and not denigrating the hard work of the staff, but I want to point out a few flaws in the consultative process that's occurred in this. Firstly, when the draft was exhibited, the maps were incomplete, missing or out of date. This has prevented the community from having a full view of the issues to comment on. An example of this is the absence of any reference to Eltham North Reserve and its ovals. Eltham North ovals have been authorised off-leash areas for more than 2 years to the full knowledge of sporting clubs, the Eltham North community and council staff. These ovals have had dog poo bags dispensers installed and signage changed that dogs are allowed off-leash under effective control. I note that the Domestic Animal Management Act Section 26 order in the previous 4 years provides guidelines to interpret what effective control is on off-leash areas. When questioned about why these ovals were not shown in the draft, there was flat denial that dogs were allowed off-leash, quoting the Domestic Animal Act definition, not the guideline provided in the Nillumbik Section 26 order. Another problem, key points made in the Stage 2 consultative process are missing from the report that Council have been provided. I know of multiple submissions from people who live in Diamond Creek that reference the need to open up the Diamond Creek ovals to dogs off-leash. These ovals are empty for 90% of the time and are clearly the most visual, obvious examples of wasted high-quality public open space in the Shire. Why would these survey responses have been excluded from the publicly available summary of comments in the second consultation report? Well, similarly, the same report noted the submissions from members of the lacrosse club arguing that dogs should be banned from the Eltham Lower Park ovals once the new dog park is completed. I also know of my submission and others that argued that access to these ovals should be retained because of the proposed dog park does not meet the needs of all dogs. Why has this bias occurred? The community has the right to know what is being planned and the right to comment on those plans. To exclude predetermined decisions or issues under consideration from the consultation process undermines its integrity and legitimacy. This flawed process has undermined the credibility of council. Thank you. I do have some recommendations with regard to the format of the proposed Section 26 order, which I would like to table, if that's possible.
Yes, I think so. You can bring them up here and we'll pass them on to the relevant people.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Michael?
Can we ask questions through the chair regarding the alleged omitted submissions? Yes. Where to and the why?
Okay. Can I guess, get that question answered by one of the officers? About the omissions on the mapping, I think the question is.
The mapping and something in regards to Diamond Creek and the lacrosse club submissions. Sorry, my memory.
Yeah. Okay.
Through the chair, the first question in relation to the mapping, acknowledging that the mapping that is currently in the draft plan is the mapping that has been that was approved from the former dam plan, and the process in which we've undertaken is to test the community to better understand where our gaps are, and we've heard from the community through the written submissions and through this process tonight. And we're taking that on board, and the currently are being drafted and updated, so the community will see a new version of the mapping for this draft plan that will come out back to council in due course. So taking on board the comments from the community and acknowledging that the current maps are the most recent maps that were endorsed by former council when the DAMP was endorsed.
So yeah, we can't put out new maps until we adopt new maps, I think, is the answer to that question, which seems logical.
The dog park exists off leash.
Okay.
And so it's not accurate, and therefore.
Yeah, I think your question's been asked and answered. Thank you, Michael.
Can I also just take the question on notice in regards to the submissions? I'm not aware that submissions have not been included in this process, and I'll need to take that on notice in terms of which ones. I've taken note of the ones that you've indicated, and I'll come back.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Ray Byram.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm a long-term resident of Panton Hill, and I walk amongst the many bushland reserves and open spaces in the Shire regularly. I support the 24-hour cat curfew, and I acknowledge all the submissions that have been made before me. Cat curfews protect our native wildlife. Nillumbik is a beautiful environment and a green wedge shire. We have much to celebrate with our open spaces and wonderful native wildlife and habitat. However, the impact of roaming domestic cats is impacting that. Cats are actually safer indoors, safer from disease, safer from the risk of being run over or being attacked by other animals or running away, as we've heard. In Australia, around 1.6 million pet cats are contained in this way 24 hours per day by responsible pet owners. The remaining 3.7 million pet cats are able to roam, and these roaming cats hunt, presenting a major threat to wildlife in the local areas. For those cats who do roam, the figures are shocking about the impact on native birds and animals. From Sydney University's article, Lock Up Your Cat, It's a Killing Machine, every year your cat kills 110 native animals. Roaming pet cats kill 390 million animals collectively in Australia. An individual roaming pet cat kills 186 reptiles, birds and mammals per year, most of them, 59% or 110 native species. A study found 39% of cats brought in at night snuck out for nocturnal roaming and hunting, even though there were nighttime curfews. Pack cats only bring home 15% of what they kill, so owners can be unaware they are hunting. Keeping your cat secure 24 hours a day is the only way to prevent it from killing wildlife. It's a myth that cats don't roam, even those which are well fed. Even a good diet or feeding a cat more meat will prevent hunting is one of these myths. Even cats that aren't hungry will hunt. Various other devices, such as bells on collars, are commercially marketed with the promise of preventing hunting. While some of these items may reduce the rate of successful kills, they don't prevent hunting together. And they don't prevent cats from disturbing wildlife. When cats prowl and hunt in an area, wildlife have to spend more time hiding or escaping. This reduces the time spent feeding themselves or their young or resting. In Mandurah in Western Australia, the disturbance and hunting of just one pet cat and one stray cat caused the total breeding failure of a colony of more than 100 pairs of fairy terns. More statistics from Sydney University. The current regulations of a nighttime curfew only aren't effective, I believe, and are difficult to enforce. I've seen domestic cats outside of their property at night time after
Thank
curfew.
you, Ray. If I can just stop you there. But if there are any questions for Ray, councillors? No. Thank you. Lee Omani, if you could approach the desk. So, Lee, you're speaking on behalf of yourself, and then I see you're speaking for Debbie James. So we'll just have 3 minutes block for yourself to start with. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. A silent, hidden, unnecessary, ineffective, unenforceable, very expensive, forever tax on the whole community that doesn't achieve what people think it will. That's what a 24-hour cat curfew is. One of the main reasons people seem to want a 24-hour cat curfew is because of the perception that cats are impacting wildlife populations. People might remember that in 2015, a literal war on cats was declared by the previous federal government. Since then, we've heard nothing but negative information about cats and wildlife. This information is mostly based on hypothetical information that's been generated by computer modelling, not by field-based research. In contrast, all peer-reviewed field-based research in urban and peri-urban areas shows that cats have no overall impact on any wildlife population. The main impact is habitat loss for our houses, our roads and our shops. So unless Nillumbik has no further habitat loss, a 24-hour curfew will have no overall benefit for native wildlife. Secondly, costs. 24-hour curfews are very expensive. Data from the few councils that have them shows that costs increase dramatically and stay that way forever, even for 20 years, which Casey has had. We'll get many more cat-related calls to council forever, and recent estimates are that they'll cost about $500 each to process, more impoundments and higher pound costs. What services will residents have to forego to pay for all these additional costs? Thirdly, curfews are unenforceable by council. Council has already acknowledged it can't enforce a night curfew, and someone just spoke about that then. We won't be able to enforce the 24-hour curfew. You're going to have to have a large number of other staff to be monitoring cats. People who are upset by neighbours' cats visiting, as one person has expressed, can already address that under state law. A 24-hour curfew will merely duplicate existing laws at a very high cost to residents. And I've heard tonight, but the other councils are doing it. Well, other councils have 18-storey apartment blocks. Other councils have high crime rates. It doesn't mean we should aspire to that. Animal management should be about implementing evidence-based best practices, not a race to the bottom of bad policies. Let's be leaders, not followers. There's also an impact on people. Confining a cat to a property is infinitely more complicated and expensive than confining a dog or a horse or a goat. It's like confining a bird. Many people won't be able to afford an enclosure. Cats trapped inside 24 hours a day may develop health and behavioural issues and may need to be surrendered to the pound and possibly killed. They won't be able to be adopted by the 166,000 people in Nillumbik. That market is all gone. If the cat of a person who is socially isolated, has disabilities or mental health issues, doesn't cope with confinement, that person will be deprived of the health benefits of their companion. Families may be split up and vulnerable people may lose their whole anchor to life. In conclusion, if a 24-hour curfew will bring no overall benefit to wildlife, duplicates existing state law, will be unenforceable, will drastically increase costs forever, may split up families and will impact other people, why would we do it? Please vote no.
Thank you. Do we have questions for Lee? Councillor? No? Actually, you've got Councillor Mackay.
I just wanted to have an understanding of your welfare concerns regarding cats in regards to road trauma and roaming-related incidents.
Well, depends on the person. I see people who do let their cats out on roads where I think that's rather foolish, like Bell Street or St George's Road. What was the other query?
Just about concerns for welfare for cats for road trauma and also roaming, incidents of trauma from roaming.
Incidents meaning a fight?
Like, in conflict with other cats or a fox or, getting injured in some sort of other way.
Sure. So foxes and cats generally cohabit reasonably well together. People who specialise in finding lost dogs and cats have filmed foxes and cats feeding next to each other. They may kill a kitten, but adults generally they leave alone. With respect to other cats, fights usually occur at night, not during the day, and cats are confined at night in Nillumbik already.
Okay, thank you. Now, I think you're staying there and speaking on behalf of Debbie James.
Okay, first, so Debbie can't be here today. She firstly is curious why the draft DAMP, which is supposed to be for both dogs and cats, only mentions dog impoundment data and not cats. People care about what happens to cats once they're impounded, and she asks that this please be included in future DAMPs, as it has in the past and as all other councils do. Debbie also notes that the online survey had a number of questions about dog parks, but the only cat question was, should we lock them up? And if so, how soon? So there's quite a difference in attitude between dogs and cats being demonstrated by the council. She says that as a resident, a dog owner, a cat owner, and working at an Eltham Veterinary Hospital for 20 years, she's very concerned that Nillumbik is considering a 24-hour cat curfew. She's 100, I'll read it as if I'm her, I'm 100% against it for a number of reasons. It's unnecessary, it's impracticable, cat stress and owner stress. Remember lockdowns. Imagine living your whole life never being allowed outside again. If your family can't afford an enclosure or your landlord won't approve one. People are against zoos because they confine animals, yet you are considering locking up every cat forever. Cats who are used to being outside through the day will be stressed if confined 24/7, leading to health and behavioural problems such as anxiety, inappropriate urination, aggression and more. This will cause cat owners to be stressed and may lead to cats being surrendered to the Cat Protection Society or rescue groups that are already stretched to capacity. A 24/7 curfew is unnecessary. Here, cats are pretty well looked after, well fed, de-sexed, and we have a low rate of strays in comparison to other areas. So just because other councils are implementing it, it doesn't mean we should happen here. It's argued that confinement keeps cats free from disease. No, a simple vaccination can do that. So again, a curfew is unnecessary. It's said that cats and wildlife don't mix. Well, a huge majority of the wildlife that comes into the vet clinic is a result of being hit by someone in a car, being blown out of trees by the wind, people cutting trees down or being attacked by dogs. So shall we consider locking our cars in garages 24/7, banning the wind and confining dogs to their yards all the time? Oh wait, dogs are already confined. A 24/7 cat curfew is impractical. If you live on land with farm fencing, how do you keep your cat within that area? You don't, it's impractical. As a council, how do you enforce a curfew? You don't, it's impractical and expensive. If you lock up all the cats, pretty soon you'll have a mice and rat problem. The proposed curfew is a knee-jerk reaction with no evidence it will achieve anything positive for wildlife or residents. Please don't make the majority of people pay for the minority. Please let common sense prevail. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee, thank you very much. Okay, we have
I have a question through the chair, sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
No
You're
questions.
speaking on behalf of someone else. So, if Debbie was here, Debbie could answer the question, but Debbie is not here, so we
It was
cannot
not a
allow the
question for the question. It was a question for the council through the chair.
Oh,
is that okay?
Okay.
A comment on where the cat empowerment data is. I couldn't remember actually if I saw it.
Could.
Through the chair, it's not contained in this one, but it is something we've taken on notice, and we'll look basically bring it back into the DAMP.
And thank you for pointing that out. Okay, we have Wayne Kinraid. Thank you.
Thanks, councillors. I'll be brief. I don't think the current strategy in relation to cats goes far enough. There should be secure 24-hour containment. The evidence base for that was clearly presented by Lily and Ray, and I urge councillors to ignore submissions that have no underlying evidence base. Thank you.
Any questions? No? Thank you. Sorry, Kath Moore? Thank you, Kath.
Thanks, councillors and staff. I'm here to advocate for all ovals to be off-leash and dog-friendly. As shown in both stages of the community consultation regarding the revised DAMP, there was strong support from the community for allowing off-leash dogs on sporting ovals when not in sporting use. In stage 1, 62% were in favour and 15% against. In stage 2, 45% in favour, 10% in support of dogs on leads and 16% opposed to off-leash, i.e. 55% of respondents support dog access to ovals, only 10% opposed it. There are clear and consistent findings as to the reasons the community so strongly supports this. Large active dogs need large areas of open space to exercise effectively. Ovals provide the ideal environment for this. When dogs have the opportunity to burn off excess energy, they are much more restful and quieter to the benefit of the whole community. People can exercise whilst their dogs can enjoy the freedom of the off-leash environment. Families can exercise together and play with their pets in a safe environment. Dog parks are much smaller, and whilst they provide off-leash space to interact with other dogs, they do not provide sufficient open space needed for active exercise. Ovals provide a safe environment. They are flat and accessible and free of any obstacles, providing people of all ages with the opportunity to exercise with their dogs off-leash. Ovals also enjoy natural sight lines where passers-by can see what's happening on them, and this is really important, especially for women who have the right to feel and be safe in public spaces. Other areas have this type of natural sight line impeded by buildings and trees and therefore deny that sense and reality of safety. Ovals are public open spaces and should be made accessible to as many people as possible. Restricting the access to a minority few is both discriminatory and divisive. By providing ovals as off-leash areas, dogs are being exercised in a safe, fenced area rather than amongst the plants and animals of our natural environment that deserves our protection. So for this reason, and for the equity of all parts of the Shire, all ovals should be made available as off-leash areas when not in sporting use. Thank you.
Thank you, Kath. Okay. You're good to go. All right. We have Natalie Duffy. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, councillors. As you can see, pets are really important to people. There were 31 people who added submissions. Actually, I think it was 13 submissions to the budget. How's council spending the massive amount of money that's at your disposal For the domestic animal management plan, there were 524 submissions. So this goes to show the importance that domestic pets have for people. It also shows the level of upset that people have when they feel that their trust has been broken. So I'd just like to share with you a quick story about what happened at the Eltham North Oval back in 2023. The Eltham North Dog Park was created by council, which is loved and appreciated by the community. Come the January of 2023, a sign went up without any community consultation saying dogs are prohibited off the oval at the Eltham North Reserve near the Redback Soccer Ground and the Cricket Club and the Adventure Playground Oval. No consultation. People were very upset, as you can imagine, and some of those people are here in the room today. They spoke with council officers, they spoke with me, and were trying to work out why did this happen. And there was discussion between council officers and those members of the Eltham dog community, and an agreement was taken place to take the signs down, and the community were able to demonstrate the importance to the officers in the room as to why having dogs on ovals was really important. Here we are back at the same spot where people in the community are worried and scared that council will do the same thing with the opening of the Eltham Lower Dog Park, that signs will go up and the ovals will be prohibited from the use of dogs. Yesterday I was at the Eltham Lower Oval and there were 25 people there exercising their dogs at 10 o'clock in the morning. Lots of dogs having a great time, lots of people having a great time, all different ages. And we were hearing before from a submitter asking with the budget to provide discounted fees for seniors at the leisure centres. The number of seniors that go and walk their dogs at the ovals, it's free exercise, no matter what your age is. You know, these are community assets that are covered with rates that people pay. There are times when I've seen families at the soccer oval picnicking, playing soccer and also walking their dogs. It's safe, it's fenced in, and it should be something that I would encourage council to continue to make available rather than cut oval access off. And importantly, in terms of the argument of people not being responsible, I'd just like to take a moment to discuss this. In 2020, I didn't have a dog, and I was one of those really upset people that would walk around the Eltham North Reserve and I picked up other people's dog poo. I was so cranky, I wanted to bring the poo into the council office and put it on the desk here so you could see.
Yeah,
what
look,
happened.
Thank you, Natalie.
Would I maybe just have one last comment?
Look, I think we've got your message. We're hearing it very clearly. But do councillors have any questions for Natalie? Okay, thank you, Natalie. Michael Smith. Microphone on.
There we go.
That's it. Thank you.
I'm learning. I'm here to ask you to support a 24-hour cat curfew in our shire to help protect our local biodiversity. Roaming pet cats have a serious impact on native wildlife. According to the Invasive Species Council, each roaming pet cat kills an average of 186 reptiles, birds and mammals per year, most of them native species. And cats bring home only about 15% of what they kill. So most of the damage goes unnoticed by Nillumbik residents who allow their cats to roam. Even during the day, roaming cats are still hunting. They kill more birds and insects and reptiles than mammals during the day, but these species are vital to the health of our ecosystems. In urban areas like ours, the high number of roaming cats means the overall toll on wildlife is huge. There can be 40 to 70 cats per square kilometre, each contributing to the loss of native animals. And this is happening right here in Nillumbik. I know of pet cats in our community that have killed sugar gliders, native honey eaters, and Jackie dragons, all native animals that deserve our protection. So that's empirical evidence that I know of. Our wildlife is already under pressure from habitat destruction caused by sambar deer, foxes, rabbits, and many other pests. And unfortunately, a lack of real commitment from the Nillumbik Shire to fund conservation properly. People move to Nillumbik for the amazing wildlife. Do cat owners really want to go for a walk and not hear many wonderful songs from birds in Nillumbik? I bet deep down they don't. A 24-hour cat curfew is practical and a necessary step to reduce this harm. I urge the Council to support it for the sake of our biodiversity and future generations. You know, for a long time now, pretty much every day I shed a conservation tear. I spend a lot of time with biodiversity and conservation, and many areas in the Shire are sick for a number of reasons. There's a number of obstacles like rabbits, kangaroo populations, deer, a lot of things that are very hard to get on top of. But one thing we can definitely do that's a really simple fix is keeping cats inside. Yesterday I went to a conservation area and was trying to find a nice spot to put a camera for common dunnarts, which is, beside its name, a really threatened species, and it was just so hard to find because the habitat was destroyed. There was very little red anther wallaby grass and hollows on the ground, so it's sick out there. One thing we can do at least is keep our cats inside. They're killers.
Thank you, Michael. Cool. Any questions for Michael? No. Thank you. Isabel Nolato, if you could approach the desk. Isabel's not here? Okay. I thought I... In there. Okay.
See when I've got my glasses on, can't see without them. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Isabel, I know you've got two lots here, so we'll hear your first lot for yourself for 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, councillors. I ask that you please do support responsible pet ownership, do support mandatory desexing and microchipping of all cats and dogs, and offer vouchers for discounted desexing for those individuals without the financial means to do so. Do not, please do not support the demonisation of cats. Please do not support the 24/7 locking up of cats. Please do more in the area of dogs at large and vicious dog attacks. I'll pick up on some things that have been said by other speakers tonight. If increasingly it is a norm for cat owners to contain their cats, then we don't need to risk the further demonisation of cats. As we have heard earlier, with so many submissions on the draft budget, it is people that have the greatest negative impacts on biodiversity and wildlife. People. You and me. Clearing land for agriculture, housing, roads, people. The one thing that we can really get on top of is our own personal impacts on native flora and fauna. Visit Edendale Farm, buy seedlings and plant them. Animals, including pets in Nillumbik, are sometimes let down by their humans. Occasionally dogs and cats are abandoned by their humans. These issues apply to both dogs and cats. Please focus your attention on supporting responsible pet ownership. The key issues with locking up cats 24/7 include: there is no peer-reviewed research that has found that cats in urban and peri-urban areas impact wildlife populations. There is no data supporting the assumption that locking up cats will actually have a significant impact on injuries and deaths to wildlife. Noting the major cause of injuries and deaths to wildlife are activities such as driving, land clearing, deforestation and so on. Also noting that dogs also kill skinks, birds and other native animals. Mandatory locking up of cats is almost impossible to enforce, and councils that have introduced 24/7 locking up of cats have found just that it is almost impossible to enforce. It is a waste of council resources to have rangers policing cats that may only be briefly out and about. We have heard how our budget should focus more on supporting biodiversity and increasing the Nillumbik tree canopy. Demonising cats can lead to people justifying, enticing, catching or baiting the cats of their neighbours, and it happens. It is cruel to keep animals locked up in cages like circus animals and zoos, and it relies on the idea behind locking up cats 24/7 relies on inaccurate modelling based on research in limited areas applied
Isabel.
on assumptions to urban areas.
Yeah, we've heard you. Look, is there any questions for Isabel? Councillor Mackay.
I just wanted to have your perspective on the difference between cats and dogs in terms of confinement. So my neighbour's dog does not come on my property, but a cat can, and just your insights on that.
I've lived in Nillumbik for 17 years. The most interactions that I have had with pets at large is dogs. Dogs getting out because the gate isn't secured properly, dogs being frightened when there's lightning strike, thunder. I've intervened. I've rescued dogs that are roaming. I've had dogs appear at my doorstep, and I have had very few interactions with cats at large. Perhaps that's because increasingly people do contain their cats more, or perhaps there's other reasons, and I'll get to that with my next talk if I can.
So just to clarify, you see more dogs roaming outside of a property than cats in your experience?
In Eltham, yeah, and in other areas in Nillumbik, yes, I do. I actually do.
Okay, if you could move into then Stephanie Jenkins' presentation that you're presenting for her.
Probably that one was more Stephanie Jenkins, and now so sorry, because I wasn't sure if I was covered for Stephanie Jenkins. But thank you.
You do have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So 24-hour cat confinement only further demonises cats. In my opinion, and all of my witnessing of activities around Nillumbik and conversing with neighbours and friends throughout the area, Nillumbik doesn't have a problem with cats. Well, we could say we have a problem with all animals that are not looked after by their humans. But if you read local social pages, Nillumbik has a major problem with dogs at large and vicious dog attacks. Nillumbik has a problem with dogs at large and dog attacks. Dogs that attack and kill wildlife, dogs that attack and kill or seriously maim other dogs, dogs that attack and seriously maim people. I have witnessed roaming dogs being hit and killed by vehicles travelling on Nillumbik streets, including Main Road, Eltham. I have witnessed dogs in local parks being aggressive and even attacking, in local dog parks, being aggressive and even attacking other dogs. Dogs chasing, catching, killing birds, skinks and other native wildlife. I have witnessed this. I know of numerous dog attacks and issues at local dog parks and on local streets. I have a personal friend whose dog was savagely attacked by 2 roaming dogs on Taylor Street, Eltham, just around the corner from Our Lady Help of Christians Primary School late last year. This dog, Blue, whom my children and I knew for the previous 6 years, had to be euthanased. His elderly owner could do nothing to stop the attack. I know a Nillumbik resident who required plastic surgery to repair damage when they intervened in a vicious dog attack, another dog on a lead attacking their dog on a lead on a local street. I know of many, many local incidents of roaming dogs chasing and attacking wildlife and other animals. I have observed local social pages and engaged with people throughout Nillumbik. If we want to be serious about protecting wildlife and other animals, along with protecting people, especially children, then we really need to stop demonising cats and focus on where the real problems are: responsible pet ownership, especially in the area of unrestrained roaming dogs. And if we want to be serious about flora and fauna, then we need to focus on our actions, where we clear land, where we drive, where we build roads, whether or not the road speeds are dangerous, not just for wildlife but also for vulnerable road users like cyclists and pedestrians. We need to be focusing more on planting trees and what is happening with our tree canopy. That's how we can protect our local wildlife and our biodiversity.
Thank you, Isabel.
Thanks.
We have Linda Greer. Is Linda here? No, Linda is not here. Okay, so we can move, we can move straight into the Zoom people speaking on the Domestic Animal Management Plan, and we have Don Vincent on behalf of the Friends of Nillumbik, whom I can see on the screen. So over to you, Don.
Have you got audio there?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of Friends of Nillumbik to support our detailed written submission. We support the draft Domestic Animal Management Plan, recognising the importance of pets to many residents. We commend the proposed introduction of a 24-hour cat confinement policy. We commend the improved pet registration and programs to increase responsible pet ownership and improved mapping of dog-permitted areas, along with enforcement of dogs off lead and dog litter, and increased responsiveness of Shire officers to nuisance and barking dogs. In particular, we strongly support a 24-hour cat confinement to the home property policy, as proposed, along with a phase-in period and support from Council providing advice on cat containment options and methods. The previous stamp showed strong support for a 24-hour cat curfew, and that 4 of the 10 most common community issues with pets related to cats outside their property, preying on wildlife, creating a nuisance, or appearing unowned. The previous council ignored this strong community view and only proceeded with a partial daytime curfew. We don't want to see that happen this time. Our research found that of the 8 councils around metropolitan Melbourne with green wedge management plans, most of them have 24-hour cat curfews, including Yarra Ranges, Mornington Peninsula, Whittlesea, Cardinia and Casey, and Manningham adjacent to us, introducing one last year. Domestic cats contribute to the decimation of native animals when outside our homes, and we endorse and could quote this, a number of the same sources for other submitters who have advocated for a 24-hour cat curfew as well. So we advocate instead for the protection of wildlife. According to the RSPCA, cats also are safer inside their homes where they're not at risk. The Cat Protection Society says the average life expectancy of a roaming cat is only 3 years. That's on cats. For dogs, we remain concerned at the increasing instances of dogs not under effective control. In non-permitted areas, loose dogs in on-leash areas, and the prevalence of dog litter and discarded poo bags evident right across the Shire. Education and enforcement are both essential components of the plan. Council could also encourage the use of plastic-free alternatives for dog poo bags or appropriate home composting. In other words, pick it up and take it home. We also propose that planning, consultation and operation of the animal plan and associated pet management be fully funded by pet owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Look, are there any questions for Don? No? Thank you, Don. We have now Justine Hunter. If you're listening, Justine, could you speak up? I did see Justine's name. If you could turn your camera on, if possible. I think Justine's just getting her connection right. Is that you, Justine? Can you hear me? Is that Justine? You can't hear me? Unmute yourself. We can't hear you, Justine. If you unmute yourself, that might be the solution. We don't have any audio, Justine. Look, can we move to something? Well, if you can keep trying to unmute yourself, and we'll move to the next presenter and maybe come back to you, Justine. Bryony Copperwaite, are you...
Hello, yes.
Perfect. Okay, if you could turn your camera on. Perfect.
Can you see me?
Yes, and we can hear you, which is both barrels there, so thank you. Go ahead.
Wonderful.
You have 3 minutes.
Excellent. Thank you. I'd just like to introduce everyone to Sophie. Sophie is a rescue cat. She is 5 years old and has never had issues being hit by a car. So I guess she is already able to outlive some of the statistics that we have heard today.
Yeah.
We've already heard...
Bryony, if I can just interrupt you, you've just jumped out of shot, so we can't see your rescue cat. If you could turn your camera back on, we want to check out this cat.
Oh, yes. Sorry, can you... How do I fix it? Sorry, just getting some technical help here.
Perfect.
There you go.
Okay. You're on screen for us.
Sorry.
Thank you.
This is Sophie. Sophie is actually a rescue cat from a local rescue centre. She is 5 years old. My son actually picked her out at the start of COVID. And, she has really enjoyed being able to be both an inside and outside cat. We've heard today far more compelling evidence that we as humans are far more detrimental to the environment. And that's been a consistent message for the past 30 years, that our environmental impact is far more detrimental than that of animals. Our cars, our own destructive nature creates far more danger for native wildlife. I also second the notion that it was shared that there is no actual local Nillumbik evidence about the impact of our cats. While I acknowledge that there is research about the impact of cats on native wildlife, there is no research that's useful for our borough, and therefore it's hard to rely on, science, computer generated evidence as opposed to practical evidence that impacts our actual local borough. What I can talk to, though, is the 2 recent dog attacks that we have actually experienced. Everyone here is talking about cats getting out on the roads, yet our neighbours frequently let their dogs out, not on leads. They run across the road, run into our yard and poo all over our house. Our other neighbour's dog actually jumped into our car with my 18-month-old daughter still strapped in. I had to use my own body as a shield to protect her from the dog. So I find it really sad that we're focusing on cats. My cat who wouldn't hurt a fly, yet there's zero concern given for my children who are constantly at risk of dogs that are incorrectly managed by their owners. Every time we walk along the Diamond Creek Trail, we're constantly accosted by several dogs that are not on leads. But I'm here to talk about saying no to the 24-hour cat curfew. As a resident, as a mother, as a tax-paying individual, I can't fathom the idea of the financial burden in this already incredibly strained financial environment of then having to create an outdoor cat area so that Sophie can have a healthy lifestyle. So as I think the first speaker was talking about, her horses or her neighbour's horses and goats being allowed to be outside. But what you're outlining as a 24-hour cat curfew is that my cat would never be allowed to be outside. She wouldn't be allowed to play with my 2 young children as they kick the ball around in the front yard because I wouldn't be able to contain her because there's nothing that goes over the top of my fence. And so I think not just of the impact on our cats,
Bryony,
of which we haven't measured the psychological impact on
if
cats.
I could just interrupt you there, because everyone's been very, very good on their 3 minutes. So
oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay, but I will ask councillors for questions. Are there any questions for Bryony and Sophie? No. Okay. Thank you, Bryony.
Thank you.
Cheers. Okay, I can see Justine back on screen. So can you have another shot at unmuting Justine? Because we can see you, we just can't hear you. Yeah, look, we can see your mouth moving, but there's no sound. So we'll do the same thing. If you have got some tech support there, get hold of them. But, otherwise, Melanie Hayes, if you're listening in, we'll call for you. Melanie is here. Thank you. Audio?
Hi.
Yes, and video. Perfect. Thank you. You have 3
Great.
minutes, Melanie.
Hi, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm an Eltham resident and I wanted to talk about the dog parks today, in particular the Eltham Lower Dog Park. I'm a local Eltham resident of almost 8 years, but relatively new to dog ownership. We got a puppy in February and we've been taking her to Eltham Lower since March, almost daily. In this time, I've come to appreciate what an incredible community asset this dog park is. And by that, I don't mean the new dog enclosure because that's not really being used at the moment. I mean the enclosed oval at the southern end. The people who attend this park with their dogs are of all ages, from young toddlers all the way through to pensioners and elderly people and everything in between. They are families, single people, people with disabilities, retirees. They come from many walks of life, different cultural and social backgrounds. In my short time visiting this park, I've seen that there are a lot of long-term friendships that have formed over many years here, as well as more incidental connections that these encounters with dogs create. In short, I've witnessed a local community asset that encapsulates values of inclusivity, connection, and community in a really natural and organic way. And in that time, I've also heard a lot of people discuss their fears that this much-loved community asset is at risk. The proposed new dog park, while still under construction, is currently not thought of that well. I could go, I don't know how much time I've got because I'm not looking at the time, but I could go over the safety issues. They have to do with uneven ground, hard ground, people not feeling safe walking there, especially elderly people. And the fact that the new park's quite tucked away behind trees, much further from the road and other facilities. Single women have commented to me that in twilight hours they've felt unsafe in that new area where there's no lighting and they feel away from lines of sight, I think was mentioned one of the earliest speakers. And so I think there's a real fear that this new dog park is being built, and as soon as it's completed,
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, thank
30
you.
seconds.
That this will be used as a sort of opportunity to then cease access to the oval. And I think there's been a number of people tonight who've spoken to the importance of those really wide open spaces the ovals provide. The flatness, the sense of activity that it creates both in the dogs but also in the people.
Thank you, Melanie. I think
Yeah, so
so
I just wanted to really speak to
it's difficult without the timer. But are there any questions for Melanie? No questions, so that's good. Thank you. Look, we'll have one last crack at Justine Hunter. Not on there anymore. I think. Look, I would just say to Justine, if you've prepared something, we do want to hear from submitters. You can email myself. My email address is on the council website. I'll circulate it to councillors if you've prepared it that way. We want to make sure your voice is added to the other people we've heard from directly tonight. That's the end of the presentations, and can I just say I really appreciate everyone being so respectful of each other, and really so respectful of me as the chair, and keeping to the delegated timing spots. I think one of the real challenges in the space is when you hear various criticisms of the council plan or the council budget or the various aspects about the plan, and I think we take that not like in a negative way, but in a very positive way, that we want, measurements, we want metrics in the budget, if that's what people are saying. We want to make it better, and so thank you for pointing those things out to make us better. That's an important part of your contribution this evening. So thank you all. I now have a motion that I have to get a councillor to support. Any councillors?
I'd like to move the motion as per the papers.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Mackay. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming tonight or speaking online. We really appreciate your perspectives, so thank you.
Would you like to speak? Okay. I would just, I've already spoken. Sorry. Yeah, anyone else like to speak? Councillors? No? Just some closing remarks. I think this is going to come back to council within the next couple of months. We haven't set a specific date, which we often do, for this to be returned for a council resolution. I think from what we've heard, we've got some mapping issues to kind of deal with. They will be dealt with, and when and then there'll be notice about when the plan comes back to council for a resolution to adopt it as is, or for it to be amended if that is the wish of councillors and they get support. So that's the way forward from here. In the next 2 to 3 months, I think we'll, depending on other things that happen, we'll be debating the domestic animal management plan in this chamber. Thank you all for attending this evening. I think, have we said all those in favour? No, we haven't. So all those in favour of adopting the recommendation, that's carried unanimously. I'll now move to, I think the very last things is there's no supplementary and urgent business. There are no confidential reports. So I'll close the meeting at, I can't read that, 9:03. Thank you for attending. Cheers.